President Donald Trump is going to enjoy one of the biggest landslide victories any president has ever had in November. It is over for the Democrats. They do not stand a chance, and the courts have just placed the final nail in their coffin. Something was just ruled that completely upends the political landscape. You see, there's been a big lie floating around for a long time, and even some conservatives had started to believe it. But in this video, we're going to uncover that lie, and we're going to set the record straight. First of all, nobody wins the presidency without winning Florida. It's the biggest swing state out there. Everybody wants it. And there had been this massive, concerted effort, years-long effort, to put people on the voter rolls that have no business being there. Now, here's the big lie that we are going to overturn today. The big lie is that people believed voting was a right. It is not a right. Voting is a privilege, and the Supreme Court has just, in essence, upheld this. And it argues with logic. It also argues with the U.S. Constitution. How can you have a right to something that isn't even required to exist? There is no national election for president. There has never been a national election for president. All there has ever been is 50 independent state elections. Are those elections required? No. They just so happen to be the method the states use to determine the slate of electors sent to the Electoral College meeting, and a state isn't even required to send electors. If they want to participate, they have to choose those electors and name them and send them by a certain date if they want to participate. But if they don't, there's no constitutional mandate that they do. But how they determine who those electors are, there's no constitutional mandate that says we have to poll all of our people and find out what their opinions are. That does not exist in the Constitution. So if none of that exists, how can you have a right to participate in it? It's like saying you have a right to go to a football game when whatever club doesn't even have any kind of a mandate that they have games or even open them to the public. And the Supreme Court just affirmed this. The Supreme Court just stopped 1 million felons from voting in November. Now, what did they actually do? They said that you have to be caught up on all of your fees and fines from your time on your state vacation, we'll just put it that way. And if you haven't, if you show up at a polling place, you might be detained. You might be arrested. Now, you're the one who chose to be a felon. You're the one who chose to make those decisions. Somehow, the vast majority of us have made it through life without being convicted felons. So it's not like there's just a bunch of landmines out in the world that if you just so happen to step on one, oh, I'm a felon now. It's not a disease you can catch. It's a series of choices you make. And here in Florida, there are 1 million people who made some very bad choices and lost their privileges to vote. And the Supreme Court is saying no. No, I'm sorry. You made the choice to do this. The state has a right to say, you must catch up. You must pay what you owe to the state. And then, if you want to have your privileges reinstated, we will take that under advisement. Now, let me ask you another question. Where do rights come from? Where do rights come from? God. That's right. God grants rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Among these, says the Constitution. So if rights come from God, how can you then say God only grants those rights to people within these lines created by man? Voting is a privilege that is allowed by government under certain circumstances. It is not a right. Now, the thing about Mr. Trump having a landslide win, think about this logically for just one moment. Joe Biden opens up a 15-point lead over Trump in new national poll. So here's this guy sitting on a 15-point lead as the parentheses D. Why in the world would a DNC spokesperson then insist that Biden does not support defunding the police? If he had a 15-point lead, what would that say? That would say that a lot of people are excited about the platform of the parentheses D. What is the current platform of the parentheses D? The Black Lives Matter movement. And what is their big shtick right now? Defund the police and take away the money from the police, and the police are everybody's enemy, and all the world would be so much better if we didn't have any 911 services or any emergency services and nobody could call the police. That's their platform. But a DNC spokesperson just came out and tried to assure everyone that Biden does not support defunding the police. That's something you do when you're trying to catch up. When you're trying to do damage control. How could someone with a 15-point lead be interested in damage control? You're winning. You would double and triple down on what you're doing if you were winning. That's why this article is a lie, based on this statement from the DNC. It's a complete and utter fabrication, this lead Biden has. In fact, I think the polls are exactly the opposite. I think he's probably down 8 to 10 points. Easy. Because that's just the reality, guys. And you may agree with it. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. If you think we should have a national election, if you think we should have a right to vote, then there are ways to change that. But when they came out and said, BLM and the Democrats, that they were going to attempt to make our country much less safe by defunding the police, that's the end. The biggest police unions have now come out and said that they are going to endorse Donald Trump. These were bastions of power for the parentheses D for years. Why? Because of the unions. Parentheses D, unions, hand in hand for years. But this super radical wing of the Democrats has just shot them in the foot. And this is where it starts, right here in Florida. The game is over. Now, do you want to come on in for the big win? Do you want a mask that says you're supporting Donald Trump? Do you want to stand for the gospel of Jesus Christ? Do you want to stand for the unborn? You can be part of this. And I saved this for the end of the video because so many people were whining about the masks. Let me tell you something about the masks, guys. Teespring, where you buy the masks, is much like YouTube. They have their own restrictions. They have their own limits. With masks right now, They are refusing literally any design. In another time, in another era, I might not have been able to get these designs through. In fact, I'm sure after the election, they'll be taken down. Not by me. So these are going to be collector's items. The Trump 2020 masks, especially the Christian ones, the Standing for the Unborn. I'm still shocked the White Lives Matter mask is still up. Just for the simple idea that you can't help put Donald Trump back into office and keep the police forces in this country financed and taken care of, that alone is worth the cost of the mask. That alone. And those of you, I don't sit here in my home and make these and print them up myself and send them to you. It's all handled by Teespring. I have to pay for these masks. If I want them, I actually have to get out my debit card or credit card or whatever, and I have to buy them. I do the designs. That's all I do. I do the designs. I use their tool to put the designs onto the mask, and then I create this store. And they get the lion's share of it. I get a percentage of it. It's a privilege that is afforded larger channels on YouTube. You have to have demonstrated the ability to hold an audience. I think it's 30,000, 50,000 subscribers, something like that. And not everybody who actually has the privilege to do Teespring has the privilege to do all of the different things Teespring allows. So, once again, the difference between a privilege and a right guarantees 4 more years for President Trump. Huge landslide victory. Like, share, subscribe.